This is Dave T1963, and I'm out setting up a spot. Now, I prepped this area about 3 years ago. I used to have a camera up in that tree right there. And I've never hunted this place, even though I do get during the rut a lot of bucks transitioning through here. Now, what we've got big open hay fields and wheat fields up that way. This brush ends in about 50 yards, and then there's about 100 yards of CRP. You got a major river system right here, so the deer kind of funnel right through here. And during the rut, there's no doubt in my mind there's some monsters that come through here. It's just a matter of being here at the right time. So what I've done 2 years ago, I put these grapevines in here. And this is a mock scrape area. Now normally what I do, I use a hoe that I use out for gardening. And I've got it cut down, but that's how I make my scrapes. Normally in here, what I'll do is I'll put a scrape here, and I'm trying to create a primary scraping area. There's a lot of does that live in this area, and there's a lot of bucks that travel through. So my actual tree is that tree right up there. I can access it right from the creek. It's about 5 foot from the creek bank. So I can climb up that tree, get set up about right where that cover is, which is about 15 foot high. And I've got a nice, 18-yard shot right to the scrape. The wind is usually blowing right back here, right over the top of the creek. So no matter if they're coming in this way, or if they're coming back from the wheat fields, there's a natural dry creek bed that runs up that way that funnels deer also. So this is just a good converging point for bucks to cruise through, and it's a place where bucks would put a scrape. I've never found a scrape in here, but man, since I put this mock scrapes in here, these deer definitely are using them. You can look at this grapevine and look and see how much it's been chewed. Now I've got some special lure that I make, that I put on these, and then I'll piss in the scrape. Urine, once it breaks down, all smells like ammonia. So, I've been doing this for years with trail cameras, and you'll see hogs and coyotes and raccoons. Everything will piss in the scrape. There's a misconception that any other kind of pee is going to freak deer out. No. If you put a camera over a scrape, you'll be amazed at how many animals come in here to this scrape and will pee right here. So, this is how I set up my scrapes. Now, that tree where I had a camera, if the wind was to get fickle in here, I could easily drop down from this tree, run right across here, going right across the scrape area, and set up in that tree. I can shoot as they come in right here, and I can shoot as they come in right there. So, me tracking across here is not going to spook a buck. Not before I put an arrow through him. Now, it might spook other deer. They'll definitely know I crossed here, but, when you're hunting cruising bucks, they're not probably going to be with the does, at least the mature bucks. They're going to be following through these areas after the does come through. So the does will come in through here, and they might smell me, and they might walk off, and they might blow a few times. It ain't going to affect those bucks. They're still going to come in here looking for these does. So this is how I set up a scrape. I usually put 2 licking branches. I like using grapevines. I see a lot of people on YouTube that use grapevines, and they have no idea why grapevines are so effective. But I'm going to tell you why I believe they're effective. If you will cut a live grapevine, you will notice that sap will drain out of that grapevine for days after you cut it. So I believe you don't even really have to put any kind of lure on these things. I believe that sweet sap that leaks out of these grapevines, especially with gravity forcing it all down, for days, maybe weeks, that it's seeping out there, that's attractive to deer, and they'll start licking on these grapevines. Once you get a couple doe families in here licking on the grapevines, their scent's on here, and this will just become a natural licking branch for them. Okay, and then once the bucks smell that the does are licking and the fawns are licking on it, they're going to hit it. Now, what I typically do is I'll put the one that I want the most use on about waist high so the does and fawns can do it. And typically what I'll do is this other line, I will probably cut this later in the year a little bit higher, after leaf drop, so that it's about chest high, so only the bucks will be using it or the big does. Now, something you got to keep in mind when you're putting these in springtime. I've got this on a relatively small tree, but it's got all this foliage on it. Believe it or not, that foliage weighs something, so you got to leave these a little long in the springtime, because as these leaves fall off, this is going to go up. And you don't want your vine lifting up, to 7 foot high and taking it out of normal use. You want this to where they can, as they're naturally walking through this funnel, they see this. It's obvious to them. And that's the main thing. Once they see it and they accept it, they will start using it every time they come through here. I mean, my trail cameras don't lie. I've seen this happen too many times. So this is a spot now. I'm not coming back in here. I'm not going to hang a camera in here this year, because what I just did about 300 yards down here, I put in a mineral lick this morning with a camera on it that I can come in easily and check that, disturb that area without getting in here, because there's a big oxbow right over here that most of the time that's where the bucks are bedding. So this is an ideal setup. It's just so hard to get back in here. And this place does get hammered a lot, so the deer get pretty spooky. But I'm going to throw a sitter to it this year. Dave 21963 out.